Good morning and welcome to the first class of our online winter session for 2020. Just get myself organized here. I want to say before we start, when you join us live, you see a screen that has information on it about listening to your body, and that everything that I offer you is a suggestion. And your body is really your teacher. So if something doesn't feel good, don't do it. And I also often give cues as to when to breathe in, when to breathe out. If you're new to yoga, you might find that a bit distracting at first. So you may just skip the breath cues, breathe normally, just keep breathing for sure, and do the movement at a comfortable pace. So it's always optional to coordinate the breath with the movement, but of course you want to keep on breathing. Today we're starting at the beginning, at the very first Yoga Sutra. So the Yoga Sutras are a group of sayings that were brought together about 2,000 years ago of the philosophy that was sort of out and about in the world about yoga. And this philosophy was brought together in one place. Originally, it was taught as a chant and memorized and passed down that way. Of course, now we have technology that can print books and publish on the internet and whatnot. So the sutras are widely available now, but in the day they were just available to those who were committed to the practice. And you showed your commitment, or you were made to show your commitment, by memorizing all of the sutras as a chant. And you would do that before you were introduced to what the sutras meant even. So taking the time to memorize all 195 or 196, depending on the school you were in, memorizing them all as a chant, and then you would get let in onto what the meaning was. So the first sutra, Atha Yoga Nushasanam, and what it means is that basically the rough translation is, now we're going to begin the practice of yoga, or now we're going to begin the study of yoga. And I kind of thought of that as a bit of a throwaway sutra. I mean, it was sort of an introduction, like once upon a time there was yoga, and then the real story begins. And what I've learned and discovered through my study over the years is that this is one of the most important sutras because it lays the foundation. This word atha, it means now, but it also means to make a commitment or to make a vow. And this is a really important concept in the practice of yoga. It comes up all the time. For each individual practice that we might do, we commit to doing that practice for that amount of time that we've decided, but also over a period of time. So we don't really see the real benefits of yoga until we've done it for a period of time. So one class you might feel great and that's wonderful, but to get a lasting benefit where we're really changing something in ourselves happens through a period of time. The second sutra defines what yoga is. And according to the Yoga Sutras, yoga is a bringing of the mind to focus. It doesn't mean that we'll never have other thoughts, because that's the way the mind works, but that when we notice that we've been somewhere else in our mind, that we bring our attention back to the moment. And that might happen over and over and over and over again. Or you might find yourself in some fantasy world for 10 minutes and then you realize, and then you just bring your attention back. So a couple of things that I've learned about making a commitment. It's New Year's, it's just after New Year's, and it's the big time for making resolutions. Resolutions don't work for me. When I've made resolutions, when I've said, this is what I'm going to do for the next year or whatever period of time, I always fail. And so I just gave up on resolutions, and I'm more inclined towards making goals or making commitments to things. And for some reason, those words, even though they can mean kind of the same thing as resolution, they feel more manageable to me. And when I think of a goal or a commitment, one of the main things you want to do when you make a commitment is to break it into smaller chunks. So for instance, you're committing to do a yoga practice. Could you commit to joining a session of yoga classes once a week and breaking it into smaller chunks? So each week you reaffirm that commitment to go to that class or to participate online, if that's the way you're doing it, that class. So we've got smaller chunks, so it's not for the rest of the year I'm going to do yoga every single day, but can we make a manageable goal and then break it into pieces that we can actually accomplish? The second part that I want to share with you about making commitments is that sometimes we mess up and we might say miss a class or not feel like it that day or whatever reason, and we let ourselves down. And in my past, when I let myself down, it was usually an excuse to just quit, right? Oh, well, I missed a class. I'm no good, whatever the story was. And I might easily just quit. And I've learned the power of, oh, well. Oh, well, I missed a class. Next week's another week, or tomorrow's another day to get back on the mat. And letting go of that need to be perfect, to have everything exactly how we imagine it. When we have that idea of perfectionism, we usually let ourselves down and we often fail. And if we can allow ourselves the space to be imperfect and to say, oh, well, when we mess up, we're much more likely to continue on. So I think we'll leave it there for the opening and get ourselves on the mat. So as usual, we are going to start lying down, which is what we normally do as a bit of a centering and tuning in. If you're more comfortable sitting, that's totally fine. Any position that you're comfortable in is great. I will be sitting. It's easier for me to talk with the microphone from a seated position, but you can go ahead and get comfortable, lie down on your mat, and I will see you there. So, finding a comfortable position. So again, you could be seated or lying down, whatever works best for you. And take a moment to adjust your position. So make little adjustments, and I'm going to invite you in a moment to commit to the position that you choose. Now, that said, if you become uncomfortable, or certainly if you're in pain, absolutely change your position. So making those little adjustments as you need to be as comfortable as possible. Check in where your hands are. Is your head well supported? You might want a pillow or a blanket under your head if you're lying down. Does it feel better to have your legs bent or your legs straight? Do you want the knees coming together with the feet a little wider if the knees are bent? Or perhaps you want a pillow or a bolster under your knees to provide a little more support. So take your time, adjust, find that just right position. And if you have a lot of excess, fidgety kind of energy in your body and you feel the need to move and adjust as we go through the centering, please do. So this is not about creating stress for yourself, but in exploring the idea of commitment in little pieces. So could you commit to being still during this centering exercise? Again, as long as that's not creating stress or tension for you. And then as you settle into that position, I'm going to invite you into kind of mindfulness or present moment awareness exercise. And I'm going to offer you 3 options that you could tune into as a way of bringing your attention back to the moment. So being mindful just means that we're paying attention to the moment. It doesn't mean that we've stopped all thinking or that the mind is blank, but that we're paying attention to the present moment. So one thing that's always present is the senses. If your eyes are open, that might be what you can see around you. It might be what you can hear. Probably taste and smell are not going to be so present for most of the time that you're practicing. But another sense, the sense of touch or feeling or sensation in the body, may also be an option for you. So I would say if your eyes are closed, you kind of have two options to tune into. One is what you hear, and you might take a moment to simply notice what's present in your environment right now in terms of what you can hear. The tricky part is to try not to create some story about what you hear or try to block it out or anything. Just notice. Be aware, be present with what's there. So the second option would be to tune into your body, into sensations, what you notice, what you feel in your body. This one can be a bit tricky because sometimes we feel a bit numb or a bit tuned out from the body, or paying attention to the body just brings us to an awareness of pain or discomfort. So if that's where your attention goes when you start to tune into sensations in your body, you might just stick with listening this morning. If you're interested in tuning into your body, you might just take another minute now and notice what's present in terms of sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Try not to dwell on what's not feeling great this morning, but notice the whole story. And a third option that I'd like to share with you would be to pay attention to the movement of your breath. Again, the breath is always happening in the present moment. And when we get distracted, we can bring the attention back either to the sounds or to the sensations or to the breath. So I'll invite you, if you choose, to take a moment. You can always stay with listening or feeling, but if it interests you, you might also spend a moment and tune into the rhythm and flow of your own unique breath that's happening right now in this moment. You're just feeling what's happening with the breath. You're not trying to change it. Feel the rhythm and flow, the coming and going of breath naturally. Now, before we begin to move, I would invite you to make a commitment to yourself. Over the next hour of this class, can you commit to using one or maybe more than one of these tools to bring your attention back to the present moment whenever you notice that it's wandered? And can you do that with kindness, without judgment, simply bringing the attention back every time you notice that it's gone elsewhere? Today's class will really be about warming up the joints and just getting our bodies moving. If you're tuning in live or around the time that the class is happening, it's mid-January, coming off the holidays and maybe a few extra pounds and maybe not as much yoga or activity. I'm making an assumption here that may not be the case for you. You may have done more and had more time to practice, in which case, wonderful. A gentle class can always be beneficial. So if you're lying down, you can stay where you are. If you're sitting, you might want to come to a lying position now. And the first thing we'll do is start at the top and just roll the head from side to side. So taking one ear toward the ground and then back to center and taking the other ear toward the ground. Tune into how your neck feels. And as long as that's a comfortable focus for you. And notice that there's a moment when your neck says, that's enough. Maybe it's because you've come to the ground with your ear, or maybe it's because there's some restriction or discomfort. And then gradually bring your head back to center. And we'll take the arms and stretch them straight overhead, palms facing each other. And start with some circles for the wrists. Circle one way and then the other way. You can keep the hands open or try making fists and seeing how that alters the experience for you, if at all. And then give the hands a little shake. You can take the hands and interlace the fingers and turn the palms up towards the ceiling, opening up the palms of the hands and the wrists a little bit. And then releasing, we're going to bring the hands to opposite elbows so that you've got a little shape of a square over top of your chest. I try to give enough description so that you don't have to look at the screen, but if you need to look at the screen, I'm also usually demonstrating as well. So you can take the arms and the head now and move them towards one side, and then back to center, and then over to the other side. And how far you go, again, will be determined by the information you receive as you go. So what tells you that you've gone far enough? And can you stay within an easeful and comfortable range? So it's not about forcing the body into any particular position or stretch. The more advanced yoga is really more mindful, more present, no matter what the actual postures we're doing, even really simple postures can be quite advanced as we tune in and pay attention more deeply. When you come back to the center, lower the arms down to the sides. You can place the palms down toward the ground. And then we'll take the arms and lift them straight up and keep moving them towards the space behind your head. You might reach the ground with the back of your hands, you might not. And then you'll bring the arms back down to your sides. Do this a few times. Move at your own rate. If you want to coordinate your breathing, you'll inhale as the arms lift and exhale as the arms lower. And then start to alternate bringing the knees in. So as the arms come down, one knee comes in toward the chest. And then the foot comes to the floor, the arms reach up. And then the other knee comes in. You can repeat that movement a few more times. Stay with whatever mindfulness tool helps you, listening, feeling, or following the breath. Continue until your right leg is in towards your body. And you can hold on either over the shin or behind the thigh, whatever's more comfortable for your knee. And it may be a matter of how far you can reach as well. So if the leg is further from the body, it might just be easier to reach behind the thigh. From here, you can extend the left leg straight out on the ground, keeping that leg active. Your toes point up, your heel presses down. We'll do a little side-to-side movement, getting a little bit of movement for that right hip. It can be straight side to side, or you can add a bit of a circle as you go side to side. And you can pass the knee from one hand to the other as you do this. If you want to add a little bit more here, you can add a bit of twist, taking the knee across your body and rolling onto your left hip, and then back to the center, out to the side. And explore the movement that feels good to your body here. That may be a smaller movement, staying close to the center, or a bigger movement, reaching out to either side. Eventually, come back to center and place your right foot on the mat and bend your left knee so both knees are bent. And you might find that your hips have gone to the side a little bit. You can shift and shuffle back to center. And then again, arms down at your sides. We'll lift both arms overhead. And as you exhale, left knee now comes in toward the chest, right leg extending on the ground. And again, the straight leg is active if you've straightened it. Straightening is optional. Heel pressed down, toes point up. And then that movement for the left hip now going side to side, starting with some smaller movements. And if that feels good and you want more, you can add a little more twist to the side. Maybe that side to side movement is more of a circle or an oval. And again, your body will perhaps share its wisdom with you this morning as to how far to go. And always, if you're in doubt, if you're not sure, maybe you're feeling a little numb or just a little disconnected from sensation, better to do less than more. When we start to force the body, it instantly resists and creates tension. Our goal is to release tension, not to add tension. And take your time. And then eventually, when you make your way back to center, you can place the left foot on the floor, bend the right knee, and if necessary, shifting the hips back to center and making adjustments so you feel aligned. We'll take both arms overhead again, breathing in. This time engage your abdominal muscles and draw both knees toward the chest, placing one hand on each knee. You can exhale as you draw the knees in towards you. Keep your hands on your knees. Inhale and straighten the arms, move the knees away. Continue, a couple more like that. If you want, you can vary the movements, circling or rocking side to side, whatever might feel good to your body. And then coming back to the center, in fact, we'll keep the right knee into the chest and bring the left foot to the floor. This time you can keep the left leg bent, or if you're looking for a little bit more stretch, you can straighten the left leg on the ground. We'll take the hands either behind the right thigh now, or you can just let the arms rest on the floor or on your body. And so we'll move the right leg a little straighter. We're looking for some stretch into the back of the right leg and then bending the knee in toward the chest. So whether you hold on to the leg or not, doesn't really matter. You'll feel a stretch by moving the leg straighter either way. The quadriceps in front contract to allow the hamstrings to lengthen. Go at your own pace, or if you like, you can coordinate the breath with the movement, exhaling as you draw in, inhaling as you reach away. You can then leave the leg in the air. If you feel a lot of tightness in the back of the leg, keep more bend in the knee and maybe even add a bit of massage to the back of the leg to warm those big muscles up. So we're never forcing, pulling, or straining with the stretch, just finding that ease and staying there. Circle your ankle around. Again, you can hold on or not. Sometimes holding on can create tension in the shoulders, so better to let go. Circle one way and then the other. And then keeping the foot gently flexed. For those of you who feel that this is a very easy stretch and you want a little bit more and you can't quite get there without some help from your hands, you can gently draw the leg toward your body. But you want to stop whenever you feel that your body starts to resist the stretch. So for you, it might be back here somewhere, the knee might be more bent, or you may be a little closer to the body. So you're just going to tune in and notice. And then release. Bring your foot to the floor. We'll take that leg and stretch it straight out on the ground, right leg stretching out, right arm either reaching overhead if that's comfortable or could be out to the side. And take a few breaths here. Imagine you could breathe into that whole long right side of your body from your hand to your foot. That you're creating maybe a little space and expansion, a little more ease. And then coming back to a neutral position, both knees bent, the hands on your body or on the floor. Take a moment to notice perhaps what you feel from the right side to the left side of your body. And then we'll go to the other side. So left knee comes in. Again, the option to hold on behind the thigh or to not hold on at all as we straighten and bend this leg. So going until you just feel some light stretch in the back of the leg and then taking that stretch off. So we gradually move into the stretch. And as we do it this way, maybe going a little deeper each time, we're much more mindful of not going too far all at once. Plus, we get to warm up those muscles through movement. So eventually you can leave the leg in the air and do some circles with your ankle. Again, how much you straighten the leg or bend the leg will depend on what feels best for you. It feels like the most supportive stretch today. Circle one way, circle the other way. And then gently flex the foot. Again, if you want to add a little massage, you can either just use your palms to create some heat or use your fingers to massage a little more deeply if you feel that that would be helpful. And then if you want a little more stretch, more than you can get without using a little bit of arms, and it feels like there's still lots of ease there, you're not creating tension, you can bring the leg a little closer. Good. And then release. You can bend the knee in toward the body and bring that foot to the floor, stretching the leg out, reaching the arm either overhead or out to the side, and imagining your breath coming into that whole long left side from your fingertips to your foot. Of course, no breath is moving to your fingertips and foot, but having that visualization, if that's helpful for you, to really feel some expansion. And then eventually bringing the hand down, bending the knee, and taking the arms out to your sides. So now we'll work with a gentle twist. Knees one way, to the center, to the other way. I'm starting with a little movement, and you can add a little more as you go. Knees coming closer to the floor, perhaps, and then to the center, and then to the other side. If you want, you can coordinate your breathing. Inhale to center, exhale to the side. And as your knees go one way, if you like, you can turn your head in the opposite direction. So again, lots of options. Going at your own pace, alternating sides. Eventually make your way back to the center and bring your knees up in towards your chest. So here we'll stretch both legs toward the ceiling, arms reaching either overhead or to the sides, and then back into the center. Exhale to the center. Inhale as you expand. Again, breathing in coordination with the movement, optional. Breathing itself is not optional. Good, and then hugging the knees in. You can do any movement that might feel good here, rocking, circling, or moving the knees forward and back, or continuing with the movement we were just doing if you like that one. Eventually come back to a neutral position, whatever's comfortable for you. We're going to change positions in a moment to come to all fours. But before we do that, let's reaffirm that commitment if you've chosen to delve into that commitment with me today of being as mindful and present as possible through the class, which doesn't mean that you'll be perfect at it, but that every time you notice that your mind has wandered somewhere else, you gently but firmly bring the attention back. So it could be noticing what you hear, noticing what you feel, noticing the breath, or if there's some other tool that helps you to come back to the present moment, you're of course more than welcome to use that tool. So when you're ready, we'll roll to one side. You can use your opposite hand to support you as you lift upright. And you can swing your legs around to come right to all fours. I'll face this way. So I'm near my blocks. If you have blocks, you can have them near the front of your mat, but you can also do the practice without the blocks at all. So we'll start with some movements for the hands and wrists. So generally in all fours or in downward dog, you want the hands to be flat on the ground. There can be a little bit of a space, a little dome under your hands, or you can press down into the bases of your fingers, whatever you find more comfortable. So we'll start with a little bit of movement for the wrists. So you'll lift one hand and turn it out and bring it down, and then lift the other, turn it out, bring it down. And you can keep moving the hands outward and toward the body. As you come closer to the body, bring your hands closer to your legs. Now, your wrists may be more or less flexible than mine, so it might be only possible to move to the side, or you might find it's really easy to turn the hands and gradually work your way back to where you started. You can turn the hands in as well, fingertips towards each other, turning around till you meet your own resistance and not forcing beyond that, and then walk the hands back. We'll take the back of the hand, gently press it down, very little pressure here, and then the back of the other hand, gently press down. Good. And then we'll start to move the spine a little bit more. So you can take an inhale and draw the shoulders back, chest forward, tail lifts a little. As you exhale, round your back, and if you like, you can add child's pose, moving back toward the heels. You can also stay on all fours. Either way, coming to all fours. There's a tendency to sort of slump into the shoulders and lock the elbows here. So I invite you to press into your palms, bend the elbows a little, and imagine the chest coming forward and then rounding to move back to child's pose. Do a few more at your own time, own pace. noticing if you're tending to slump the shoulders and lock the elbows, and bring your attention there for a few rounds. And then you can stay with this movement, or if you like, you can vary the movement by maybe circling the hips towards the heels and back up. Or maybe you just want to hang out and stay in child's pose for a few breaths. That's another option. You could bring your hands under your head if your head doesn't quite reach the ground, either flat or even fists. If your body prefers to keep moving, you can add a little more movement, maybe wag your tail side to side, let your head go. So take a moment and explore a little bit more movement here, whatever would feel good to your body. And then eventually we're going to make our way upright. So we're going to come to a standing forward bend, and there's lots of different ways to get there. So probably the most simple way, and especially if you have blocks, this makes it even simpler, is to simply stand one foot underneath you and lift the other. So you'd end up in the standing forward bend. If you want a little bit more sort of work to get there, a little more stretch to get there, you can come from downward dog. So you lift up into downward dog, and then either walk with little steps or one big step. You can step forward. Sometimes you get a bit stuck part way and you might walk the hands back. So either way, you want to end up in that forward bend. Try to let your head relax forward unless that's not comfortable for you, or you have high blood pressure, in which case you'll bring your elbows onto your thighs. So from here, again, a little bit of just to taking care. If you have issues with the discs in your back, you probably want to come up with a more flat back. If you're comfortable rounding and rolling up, you can just let the arms hang, let the head hang down, and slowly uncurl your spine to come upright. So however you get there, whatever works best for your body. And really in these online classes, I can't see you. I don't know all of your issues. So it's really important that you check in with yourself, or if you're not sure, check in with your doctor, or when in doubt, don't do something if you're not sure about it's whether it's good for you or not. So as you come upright, you can have the feet more or less underneath the hips. In yoga, there's often an instruction to keep the feet parallel to one another, but a slight variation one way or the other is generally fine, as long as that's comfortable for you. So here we'll lift the shoulders, roll them back and down. If you want to coordinate breathing, inhale, lift. Exhale, roll back and down. If you like, you can alternate, and here it's nice to get the body moving a little more, one shoulder and then the other shoulder. Let your hips swing a little, the knees bend. You can even take the feet a little wider and let that movement travel up from the ground, even lifting your heels one side to the other. So find a little dance-like movement perhaps even here. And then maybe shift and go the other way. So you're rolling the shoulders the opposite direction. Right, and then come back to the center and bring the feet again more or less underneath the hips or wherever it's comfortable for you. Bring the palms of the hands together. Put a little pressure against your palms, feeling a bit of stretch going up through the forearms and wrists perhaps. So another way that yoga has evolved to invite more mindfulness is in where we're looking when we're practicing. So I mentioned earlier, a way of becoming more mindful is to really notice what's around you. However, that can be a big distraction. There may be lots of things to look at. And so we want to narrow the focus a little bit without glaring or creating tension in the eyes and in the focus, but give ourselves something to look at so we're not distracted by everything around us. So we're going to look down at the fingertips now. And as you raise the arms, raise your gaze. Try not to let your head fall back behind your shoulders, so it's actually your eyes more rolling up. And then as you circle the arms around, let the chin come down. Give the back of the neck a little stretch. Find the fingertips coming together and follow them again. If you want to add your breath in here, exhale as the arms come down and the chin comes down. And then inhale as you lift the hands. But as always, the coordination of the breath is completely optional. Gives us one more thing to focus on and a little less, attention going elsewhere if we're really focused on breath and gaze and movement. So we're juggling a few more balls. And as we get more advanced in the practice, we can add even more things to focus on. Let's add a forward bend now. So we'll let the body hinge forward at the hips as you release the arms towards the ground. Let the head release. Come all the way up, taking a breath in. Reach the arms overhead, find your fingers, and now follow them down to the center of your chest. Again, lifting. Big circle, come forward. Inhale, lift all the way up. Find your hands in your gaze, as long as that's comfortable for your neck. Don't strain. Bring the fingertips down. We'll do one more like that. Always a good idea to keep a little bend in the knees as you come forward. Keeping the lower back long and relaxed. So looking down at the fingertips again. And then we'll release the hands and just give the body just a little shake. Let go of that. So we'll come now into a little bit of work with balance. So when we're working with balance, we're working also with focus. So if our mind is all over the place, it's usually a little more challenging to balance. And we're going to balance on 2 feet. Sounds like it's going to be a little easier, but sometimes it can be just as challenging as balancing on 1 foot. So we're going to lift the heels up, coming onto the balls of the feet. Feel your calves working and engaging, the feet working a little bit, and then slowly lower down. Rock back into your heels a little. You could lift the toes, and then let the toes come down, sink into the balls of your feet. Try to keep your toes planted as you lift. Lifting the heels, and then releasing slowly down, rocking back on the heels, maybe lifting the toes. So rocking forward and back like that a few times. Right. And then come back to a balanced position between your 2 feet. For the next one, you want to have 1 foot a little bit in front of the other. So maybe 6 inches or a little more between the heel of your front foot and the toes of your back foot. And the feet more or less pointing in the same direction. Bend both your knees till you feel a bit of stretch in your back ankle mostly. The weight is over your back leg a little bit. And then from here, you can bring your hands onto your front knee. Step the back foot back a little further. Again, toes still pointing forward. And keep the back leg straight now as you press the heel toward the ground. So a little bit of stretch into the upper calf. And then stepping onto your front foot, bring the top of your foot to the ground, toenails down. Little bit of pressure down into the top of your foot to get a stretch across the front of your ankle and the top part of your foot. You could also roll from baby toes to big toes a little bit to to give a little more stretch across the foot. And bring that leg out in front. Here's where balance comes in. You're going to give it a little shake while you balance on the opposite leg. And then come back down. And then the other side. So, and you'll take 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, just a little step. Bend both knees so that your back, ankle, heel area gets a bit of stretch around the Achilles. And then you can take the hands onto your front knee and step back. And you're stepping back just enough to feel a good amount of stretch for you. So the heel is moving toward the ground. Toes pointing forward. And then you'll step onto the front foot. Bring the top of your back foot down. Be gentle with this stretch. For some people, it's an instant foot cramp when you stretch out the top of the foot. For instance, kneeling or child's pose can have that same effect of a little, or sometimes a big foot cramp. Again, you can roll from one side to the other, go gently, carefully. And then you can take that foot forward and give it a little shake. Right, and then bring that foot down. So from here, we'll bend and straighten both knees a few times. You can take your hands to your knees and do a little movement here, one way and then the other. And then coming back up to center, take your hands to your hips. Separate the feet a little and you can do some circles for your hips. You want to keep the knees soft. The whole body moves with that action. One way and then the other. And then coming back to the center. And from here, if you have blocks, you can use them for this next posture, warrior pose. But if you don't have blocks, you can, like I said before, you don't need them for this practice. So if you are using blocks, you'll be up close near the front of your mat. So you've got some room to step back. We'll take a breath in and raise the arms up. As you exhale, you can either bring your hands to the floor or the blocks, or if you like, onto your left knee. And we'll be stepping back with the right foot, and this time turning the toes towards the right so that the whole foot is comfortably on the ground. If you want to work a little harder and want a bit more challenge, step further back. If you want a little less challenge, keep your feet close together. So I'm going to go somewhere in the middle. And then as we lift up into warrior, you want to have the front knee bent over the front ankle. Now, again, if you want it a little easier, straighten the leg a little bit more. So we'll come up with a breath in. As you come forward, you can, again, hands to the blocks, the floor, or your thigh. You can move the front leg a little straighter. If your hands are on your thigh, be careful you're not pushing back and hyperextending the leg. So we'll come forward and then lift up. So the knee bends over the ankle as you lift up. And leg could move a little straighter as you come forward. And now we'll make a commitment to be in the pose for a few breaths. Of course, that commitment is optional for you. So if you want to come out of the pose, if it feels like enough for you, you listen to your body. Otherwise, we'll stay here for a few breaths. And warrior one is a back bend. So when we take the arms up and we take the one leg forward, it automatically arches the back. And the more we bend the knee, the more the back tends to arch. So we can exaggerate that arch by sticking out the rib cage and the belly, or we can kind of control it a little bit. And let's work on controlling it by bringing a little bit more attention to the abdominal area, drawing the ribs and hips towards each other a little. So we're finding more neutrality in the lower back. As you come forward, you can again either bring the hands to the floor or the knee or the blocks. And you want to move that front leg straighter, but try to do it without rounding the back. So now, again, looking for a little more neutrality. So nice long spine here. Right, rather than this kind of action, more length. So it's not about how far you go, keeping that nice alignment and feeling the stretch in the way that's appropriate for you. We'll change sides by stepping forward. Bring your hands to your shins or your knees and find a little half forward bend coming up with a little arch in the back. Slide forward as you exhale. And then come all the way up, breathing in. And exhale to release. So do the other side, coming up. Exhale forward. You can either take your hands to the blocks, the floor, or now it would be your right thigh above the knee. Step back with your left foot. And again, find the position that feels best for you. So further back, more challenge. Further forward, less challenge. Or somewhere in the middle. You want to have a bit of space side to side between your feet so you've got a good, solid, and steady stance. And then again, from here, we'll lift with the breath in. Knee is over the ankle more or less, or it could be more straight, that's fine. As you come forward, keep as much bend as you need to, or move the leg a little straighter, being careful not to hyperextend by pressing the hands into the thigh. So coming up and going forward. This time, as you come upright, again, committing to stay if you choose. And again, the knee more or less over the ankle or more straight. The back leg is straight, but you can bend it a little bit. If you notice, as I bend the back leg and straighten the front leg, I'm also taking some of the arch out of my back. I can do that also, as I mentioned earlier, by drawing the ribs and hips a little more towards each other, engaging the core. Shoulders stay relaxed, jaw relaxed. And then coming forward, again, it could be hands to knee, to blocks, to the ground. And you want to find a little length in the spine as you move the front leg a little straighter. So the more length you have in the spine, the more stretch you'll feel in the back of the leg. Front leg, that is. We'll step forward. Taking the hands now to the shins or knees, lengthen with the breath in, coming halfway up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come all the way upright. And exhale, arms down. We're going to make our way back down onto the mat. Start to wind things down and take a little rest for Shavasana at the end of the class. So from position near the front of your mat, again, there's lots of different ways you can get back down to all fours. Coming up with a breath in, we'll start by going to a forward bend. From there, you can simply step your knees back underneath your hips, or you could walk the feet back to downward dog first, and then lower the knees. So however you want to get there. Good, you might take a few breaths with the cat-cow movement, maybe adding child's pose if you like. Letting the spine and the hips and the shoulders come back to symmetry after the asymmetry of warrior pose. And if you're at home thinking, wow, that went by really quickly and I'd love to do a little bit more yoga before relaxing, you can always turn off the video, maybe do a few more poses, and then rejoin us for Shavasana. And then if you're ready to start to wind down and come to a comfy lying down or sitting up place, you can do that. And as you come to lie down, if you want, you can hug your knees into your chest, do a little movement, take your time to find a really comfortable position that you can relax in. We'll spend a few minutes in Shavasana, not too long. And you can always extend that time by just continuing Shavasana at the end of the video, not closing the class with me, but taking more time to relax. Entirely up to you. So again, take your time to find the position that will be most comfortable for you, or that you believe will be most comfortable for you. And then if it interests you, you might make a commitment to that position. So that means unless you get really uncomfortable or there's some pain involved, you're going to try to stay still, even if you have the urge to fidget. Can you notice that, but stay still? Now, again, if that creates agitation, if that creates tension or even anger, depending on what our history is, being still can be very, very challenging. So I invite you to make that commitment if it feels right for you. If it doesn't, please forget it. And then as you settle, you might take a moment to reconnect with whatever tool you've been using through the class, whether that's been listening to sounds, listening to sensations, or maybe following your breath, or perhaps some other tool of mindfulness that you prefer. Just take a moment to re-engage with that theme of our class. And then bring your awareness down to your feet. Feel where your feet make contact with the ground, if they do. And let them sink down. Let go. And as the feet relax and settle, allow the calves, knees, and thighs to drop down. Exhaling, feel the weight of your pelvis. Feel the weight of your pelvis sink down into the earth. Let go of any holding around the buttocks, the lower abdomen, hips. And then dropping down through the lower back, relax the abdomen. The rib cage heavy. Arms releasing. Let go with your hands. There's nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. Let the hands relax. And softening the jaw, neck, shoulders. Softening the muscles of your face, around your eyes, across your forehead. And let the weight of your head sink deeply into the earth. I'd like to share with you the first number of sutras from the Yoga Sutras. The first one being the commitment, the second one defining yoga as keeping the mind in the present. And then a few more sutras talking about the other states of mind we might be in. Atha yoga nushasanam yoga chitta vritti nirodha tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam vritti sarupyam itaratra vrittaya panchataya klishta klishta pramana viparyaya vikalpa nidra smritaya pratyaksha anumana agama pramanani viparyayo mityajnanam atadrupa pratishtam shabda jnananupati vastushunya vikalpaha abhava pratyayalambana tamovritir nidra Anubhuta Vishaya Asampramoshaha Smritihi Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tam Nirodha. If you'd like to continue with Shavasana, you just stay where you are and can ignore me as I invite the others to roll to one side, slowly come back to sit. Take your time. Bring your hands together and we can end the class with the word namaste or any word you want to say that, or nothing, just being present. Namaste simply literally means hello and goodbye. It's a Sanskrit word often used in India as a greeting. Namaste. Have a great day.